I'm Steve Ray. This is Exit 425. Today I'm not at Exit 425. I'm on Lambs Road, just north of Concession Street East. Over my shoulder, surrounded by yellow fences, the cafeteria building from Camp 30. What is Camp 30? You'll be forgiven if you don't know, because many of us who've been here for a long time have no idea about Camp 30. And someone who does know about it is Marilyn Morawetz. And she's the chair of the Jurylands Foundation. We had a conversation about Camp 30 and all things protecting Camp 30. I think you'll find it fascinating, interesting, and puzzling why so little's been done to protect this national historic treasure. Marilyn Morawetz of the Jurylands Foundation, today on Exit 425. Today's guest at Exit 425.
In the main corridor of Exit 425.
Local politicians to connect with families.
What are some unique challenges?
Thanks very much, Steve, for having me.
Exit 425. It's where we live. Marilyn Morawetz is the chair of the Jurylands Foundation, and we're going to find out more about what that's all about and some things about Camp 30. Marilyn, thank you so much for meeting me here at Exit 425.
Thanks very much for inviting us, Steve. I say us because it's a real team of people who've been working to try and keep this foundation going and to have some successes. So thank you.
So what is Camp 30, and why is it referred to as the Jurylands Foundation?
So Camp 30 was the official title of this particular POW camp during World War II. And there were about 42 of them across Canada. This one was particularly unique because it was such a grand site in terms of the buildings that were available there. And as a result, the highest ranking German officials actually lived at Camp 30, which precipitated all kinds of interesting history. But that's basically where the name came from. The other part of your question, why do we refer to it as the Jurylands? John H. Jury, who was a local businessman in the Bowmanville area, he had a farm where the camp is now located. In the early 1920s, he went to hear a gentleman named Edmondson, who was also titled the boy mayor of Toronto, believe it or not. They had a boy mayor at that time. Anyway, this young gentleman had a notion that there were lots of wayward boys who just needed better direction in their life, and the penal system that was in place at the time really didn't help those guys become model citizens and contribute and so forth. So he had this idea that if there was a training school created whereby boys would be brought up with a mother-father figure and sharing spaces and being educated, that it would be a really progressive way of handling youth who were getting themselves in a bit of mild trouble. Mr. Jury went to hear that speech, and he was so taken by the idea of changing how we dealt with wayward boys that he offered his farm. And then the province bought similar acreage, so that there was about 300 acres altogether. But had it not been for the vision of those two gentlemen, it wouldn't have come together. And so he offered the property to the Ontario government, and we just felt that it was fitting because there are so many stories connected to this particular property that maybe if we called it the Jurylands, then it allowed us to explain the full history of the place and to acknowledge how valuable his contribution was. If you're familiar with Bowmanville, the Waverly Place Museum estate house was his in-town estate home, which was also donated. So he was really quite a generous gentleman, although the stories say that at the time, he really was thought to be quite frugal. And so it was really pretty surprising when you put those things together that he would have offered this property and this history to our area.
It was important enough to a frugal man to make that donation and ensure that took place, right?
Right.
That's pretty amazing. How did you become involved with Camp 30?
Well, it's kind of an interesting thing. I went to a couple of public meetings that were put on by a lady who worked on special projects at the municipality at the time and the executive director from the museum. The property had been closed in 1979. The Young Offenders Act changed, and so the training school was closed for its original purpose. And they were just anxious that people in the community knew about the significant history here. And many of us who grew up in the area, like myself, may have taken swimming lessons there. We may have done entertainment for the boys. I was a junior farmer, and we used to go on Saturday nights and put on variety shows. And then our pay was that we could swim in the swimming pool. Anyway, lots of people played soccer on the site and so forth. So it has a real connection with the community. And for me, there was that kind of vague history. But in the year of the 60th D-Day celebrations on Juno Beach, I was privileged to go with two of our three kids on a school tour to the beach. And honestly, when you have an experience like that, it really does not leave you ever in terms of the importance of remembrance, the importance of recognizing the contributions of the war years by all the Allied forces. But this particular site gives us a chance to think about how much was done on the home front to support the war. So your example with your own dad and his history, for many people, there was a real involvement on the home front, and it made a difference to the outcome of the war. So when I learned about the significance of this site, coupled with that experience with my own kids in Europe, it just seemed to me the right thing to do. My dad was an RCAF, and our generation is linked very directly with those war year veterans. But certainly a lot of people through the next generations may not feel that connection. So having a place where you can actually go, stand in a building, reflect on the history, to me, it's just very worthwhile.
Yes, absolutely. And, I've experienced Juno Beach, and I've experienced that whole area where D-Day played out. And it's pretty mind-boggling to think about the young people that were involved with trying to seize that territory and all that went into it, because it wasn't just that day by any stretch, right? So, so maybe we don't need a lot more about why save Camp 30.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, that national and international history is very significant, and Canadians should know about it, and they should feel very proud of it. And I think for people who aren't as connected to the history of the site, there's a great opportunity for education and understanding. But also the site, if it's repurposed, if the buildings are used for more modern uses, whereby they have sustainable buildings in them, or if some of them are community resource buildings, that's a pretty wonderful thing to be able to put those two things together so that they're actually useful, the parkland is useful, and you still get to recognize the significant history.
We seem to love prequels more and more for our stories, and Camp 30 has history from before the war as well, I understand. Has that history ever been used as a reason for not protecting any or all of the buildings? I believe that was the boys' school before Camp 30, and there were some stories there. And has that been used as a reason why we shouldn't protect Camp 30?
I think that it's important for people to recognize the full history of the place. And certainly during the last 16 years, as we've been working towards saving these buildings and the property, it has come up. There's a bit of dark history around residential schools, which makes people think of training schools. The circumstances where boys attended the training schools was a little bit different, but still it's an important part of the growth of Canadians. And so what we've been advised and through our own research, it's really important to tell the full story of the place, the good, the bad. One of the features that we're hoping to develop is a healing garden, so that people who do want to come and reflect and think about all that this place was. But it's also a place of celebration in some ways. We had guests here last summer from Germany. Her father was a POW held at Camp 30. And she was a bit anxious about coming, but she said it was just an incredible experience to walk around and reflect on what he would have been doing there, and what his life was like there. And probably that he was fortunate to have been in that camp and not some of the others that were not nearly as comfortable and accommodating. But yeah, there's the history about how people in Bowmanville and the area felt about having Germans march from the train station in South Bowmanville up to this remote property. There are feelings. Many families were not happy that the POWs themselves ate better than a lot of people in the community who were living on food stamps. The history of the boys' training school, there are lots and lots of stories that are concerning in many ways, but sort of like Maple Leaf Gardens. It is a history that we need to recognize and talk about and learn from. And that's really the approach that we've taken. One of the heritage architectural firms that's been involved said even the graffiti on the buildings now tells a story, and needs to be part of what we try to save. Because it's reflective of the generations and how things change in time.
Yes, and yeah, there's so many different lessons that you can learn from the history of Camp 30. And yeah, that's interesting that even the graffiti, that tells a lot. So I'm thinking of several different ways that could be used used as a lesson, used as an example. I saw a quote recently. Maybe I've seen it before, but it hit home recently. Was history is history, and we may not like the history, and it may not always be nice history, but it's history, and we have to learn from that. And I guess what we do with the history that's the real interesting challenge. So there's a lot that can be learned from all the things that occurred, good and bad, at Camp 30. Is it only now that anyone like the Jury Lands Foundation have tried to save the camp or any of the buildings?
The Jury Lands Foundation was established in 2014, and the work before that was done by these two ladies who did these public meetings, and then council at the time wanted some kind of recognized group to sort of be the spokespersons. So a number of us created the Architectural Conservancy of Ontario Clarington branch. And they were really the ones who tried to gauge the interest in the community and what was important, and just exactly what kind of steps should be taken forward. And then we created the foundation, and it was incorporated in 2014 as a not-for-profit.
I see. That makes sense, and that kind of forces a bit of teamwork there as well.
Yeah, the ACO Clarington branch, they still do our tours in the summertime on the Aaronwort Trail. So they're also a hardy group that really believes in this site.
Yeah, and it's not a Johnny come lately kind of group. It's been around for a while, and they know what they're doing. So that's I'm glad that at least Exit 425 can focus on this now. So
Yeah.
what is the predicament that council is dealing with now that really is a threat to protecting Camp 30? And have there been barriers presented by council impeding your efforts, and why, maybe, if you understand?
I think the barriers presently are faced by every level of government. Everyone's budgets are overrun. Everyone's trying to be, fiscally responsible. No one wants their taxes to go up. So the common thread, for all of those various levels of government, and it's fair, right? We all want the most for the least amount. And there are lots and lots of very important projects underway in Clarington. For example, the hospital expansion, the hospice. There's a number of other heritage programs that have recently come to light that are also hoping to have some funds directed toward them. So it's a huge balancing act, I think, for council. And you have to respect the fact that they are trying to do the best for everyone. We've always felt that we've had a very good relationship with them because we do hope it's a partnership that lasts for many years. The challenges over time, I would say, probably mostly it's just process. Process is difficult to wade through, and when you are a government, you have a responsibility for clarity and for transparency. And so, you have to follow the same procedures for everyone. The thing that's a little unique about this situation is that, typically they're not partnering with a foundation of volunteers who would like to have more responsibility and shoulder more of the responsibility so that that's taken off the shoulders of the municipality. But it's a little hard to figure all of that out. So there are times when things grind slowly. Somebody asked us, how could you possibly have been working at this for 16 years? And interestingly enough, in one of those first ACO meetings that we had a gentleman who'd been involved with the Whitby Shores project and trying to save that. And at the time, there were 31 buildings that the province owned and designated for heritage. And there is one still standing. And it's not in great shape. And now it doesn't have context. There's not even a single other building with it to kind of tell the full story. And so we're trying to avoid that. But they said to us at the time, be prepared for this to take 20 years. And so we're well on our way. And I think part of it is, first we had to become established as a not-for-profit. And that took a lot of work, bylaws and all of the work that you do that goes into that. And then we applied 3 different times before we got it right in terms of managing a charitable status. So all of these things helped to bring us to where we are today, but each one of them took a lot of time. And then you add conversations, other focuses, it just took ages to get everything in place. We feel right now we're on the precipice with the increased public awareness and some of the national news media that we've had coverage with, and people seeing the resource for what it could be by some of the events that we've had on site this summer. People who had no idea what the place was or what its history was, but they, for example, a bunch of them were at the family picnic day that we had. We had over 400 people come. Families, a lot of them new families with young children, a variety of ages, and they could see how fabulous this parkland and the space of the area could be as a resource to the community. So people are really buying into the fact that this would be a really, really valuable asset for Clarington and for their families, as well as for telling the national story.
That's really awesome to hear, and those observations that you've made. And you're right. I know the council is very aware of the budget, and they don't like necessarily spending tax money. And the mayor has made that pretty clear. And some of the legislation that they have to navigate around doesn't help them at all either. So that does make it difficult. So
yeah, and if I could add, just some of the decisions and changes required by other levels of government impacts the municipality, and they often can only react. They can't shape those decisions. So, we do have some sympathy for all of that. Would be great if we could move this forward, and we try to assure them that the foundation really wants to take this on financially and otherwise. So the worry of it falling back on the taxpayers it's legitimate, but at the same time, we have been at this for 16 years, and I think we've proved that we are not going to give up tomorrow. So we hope that they can trust us more with that, and feel some confidence that we will get this accomplished given the opportunity.
I have every confidence, having heard your presentation to council and in this conversation that we're having now. I have every confidence that you'll achieve that goal.
Thank you.
Amazing. So now you talked about the different levels of government. It seems to me that World War II history should be a federal government kind of thing. Have any of our past or current MPs intervened to assist with this? And has our current MP demonstrated any support for the project?
There are layers of people in different levels of government who have stood behind the project, some more or less. Certainly, the Honorable Aaron O'Toole still is happy to have his name associated with this project. And Aaron was instrumental in helping us achieve the national designation, because there was a bit of concern at the time with some of the darker history and so forth, but recognizing the significance of all the history, along with the architecture on the site, which is very unique. It did go through, and we are very grateful to him for stepping up and for staying engaged with us. We are hoping that Aaron and Ted Barris, who's a local author, will do an evening for us in the new year. And that's something we're really looking forward to as a promotion about the importance of the site. Our current MP is very interested in this project. It's a little hard when you're not in power to have much influence, but it is important at any opportunity to talk about it and to engage other MPs and to encourage them to learn about it. So we hope that Mr. Giovanni will do that for us. We've also worked with the provincial government, with MPP Todd McCarthy locally. It is through their office that we were able to celebrate significant money through a seed grant a year ago, October. And that money was to have a whole series of educational and reactive events and activities for families to engage in over the summer to get to know the site and to learn more about it. And we feel we had a really, really successful year, and thank Ontario Petroleum Foundation as well as the province of Ontario. Would we like to see more? Absolutely. Many people say, because it's a federal story, why wouldn't they get involved? But it takes time to introduce a site that they may not be aware of, to educate toward that. And again, we just hope council will give us the time as we're working through these processes to actually get their involvement. We've reached out to the German embassy as well, because there are instances where other governments who are linked to the history get involved. And so we're hopeful we just can keep working away at those processes and opportunities.
That's awesome. And I will be at that Ted Barris event. He did write in one of his books, The Battle of the Atlantic, included a section about my dad. So that was pretty awesome to see. And he's one of the best storytellers I've ever met. And so that would be a fascinating evening with Aaron and Ted.
Yeah, I'll keep you posted.
So what's happening right now with the effort to save Camp 30?
So lots of work on fundraising, lots of work on advocacy still, and keeping people engaged through social media so that it doesn't sort of fade away. That's important. We've made some real strides there, and that's been a lot of work for a number of our board members and team players. We've recently updated our website so that it's more interactive, and there is a donate opportunity linked to it now, so it's easy for people to donate if they'd like to. And the biggest thing is October 20th, there was a meeting of council to consider the future of the cafeteria building. We were hoping that they would give us more time to prove ourselves out, because what happens to that building may be a precursor for what happens to all of the other heritage buildings. And there are 4 of them inside the ring road that, in an agreement with the developer, at some point are supposed to be conveyed to the municipality, as was the cafeteria a few years ago. The project at the moment is, we have engaged a heritage restoration company who has a lot of experience locally, many examples of their really fine work, and council has allowed us to ask them to prepare for us a solid quote on bringing that building to a reconstructed, stable form that's secure and that could stand for a number of years until funding allows for further restoration and use, active use. We're pretty excited about it. They're a very reputable company, and they see the value of this project and wanted to get involved. They've been quite generous with us, and so we have an opportunity coming up to present that to council. There's not a date on it yet. They've still been working through budget things this last several months. So when we get that date, we'll present to council, and our hope is that they will give us the green flag and express their trust in us moving forward with work on the cafeteria. Just going back to the federal government, we did reach out to them a while ago, and we were told in June that we had been awarded a federal legacy grant. It's a matching funds grant, $500,000 from the federal government, and $500,000 was agreed to by our council about a year and a half ago in June at a meeting. This money is mostly for capital expenses, so real work on the building. And we were awarded it because in 1924, that's when the cafeteria building was started being constructed. And for any project that has reached its centennial, you are eligible, if you can prove that out, for applying for this very unique grant. I believe that the Newcastle Town Hall celebration a few years ago was able to take advantage of it as well. So we have a chunk there that we can get started. We need to double that, I think, so that people feel confident that we can get it done and not leave the project half finished. So that's where we're working right now, just working very hard on proving all of that out and fundraising as quickly as we can.
That's amazing. And I think, as you've kind of alluded to a couple times in our conversation, that this is going to have international appeal, and that you'll find support from around the world, because I really think that I probably can't explain it because I'm not a history guy, but I'm certain that there's that kind of significance to this site, that there would be. That's something people like Ted Barris and Aaron O'Toole could talk about very well. So that's amazing, and it's really exciting to see a community group working so hard and effectively to make such a difference, and to protect something that from our past that I think can have some significant impact in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, I think one of the things part of the federal money is to go to is 6 storyboards that we would love to have inside the cafeteria for now, just because of vandalism, and there's just not enough eyes on the site to make sure. But honestly, over the last number of years, we've done a number of grade 10 tours, youth who are doing their Canadian history year. And it's amazing how engaged they become. But, to sort of have them see an interactive kind of program presented, inside one of the buildings, looking up at the windows and thinking about guys rappelling in and taking over a battle and that sort of thing. It's just it's far more engaging when you can kind of place yourself in the history.
And having worked with a lot of history teachers and both as a Canadian Studies department head as well as an administrator in high schools, I could just picture half a dozen of them right now, just giddy as a kid in a candy store in a situation like that, and just how excited that they would be, and that would convey that excitement to their students. And people say Canadian history is boring, and it is if they don't know it, and it's pretty amazing what's gone on here. So. Marilyn, thank you so much for taking the time to meet me here at Exit 425 and share with what's going on with Camp 30. How can anyone learn more about what's going on with Camp 30 and the Drury Lands Foundation, and any final thoughts you'd like to share?
Well, I did mention previously that we've updated our website. So the Drury Lands Foundation has the website. We also have a Facebook page, Instagram, for people who like to connect through those social media outlets. The ACO also has a site called Save Camp 30. And we've been watching the membership in that site escalate over the last couple of months. Every other day, it seems like there's 5 or 6 or 7 more names added to that. So that's really terrific to see. Partly because the lady who administers that used to live in this area and she's in Alberta now. And so it is a national response that we're getting. And I know some people locally say, well, then why should local money be a part of the solution? But really, we're all going to benefit from it in terms of a local resource as well as being able to tell that history. We're happy to have people reach out to us. The website and some of these other social media outlets have allowed us to actually gain access to more of the history. People are sharing, artifacts that they have and stories that they have and the names of people who used to work, as a veteran guard or something like that. So it's helping us to build the archives, which is terrific. And honestly, I think the biggest thing at all of our events this year, we encouraged people not to sit back. If you feel strongly about it, let the mayor and let your councillors know. This is a, incredibly unique site, and oftentimes unique things take a little bit of courage to tackle. But we really believe that we can make this a resource the community and the country can be proud of.
Can't think of a better spot to finish on. So thank you very much for meeting me here, and thank you for doing what you do with along with your team, because you'll acknowledge them with the Drury Lands Foundation.
Thank you very much, Steve. I've appreciated this. Thank you.